When you think of Oxford, what comes to mind? Probably ancient colleges, beautiful architecture, maybe even Harry Potter, right? Well, for over 1,000 years, underneath those dreaming spires, there's a story of constant and often violent reinvention. So, let's get into it. Let's look at how this iconic city was literally forged in conflict.
Right from the beginning, you've got to understand that this was a place with incredibly high stakes. We're talking about a town where kings made their capital, revolutionaries plotted, and ideas were born that would, no joke, change the entire world. This was never just some quiet university town. It was an arena.
Okay, so first things first. Before Oxford was ever a center of learning, it was a gritty, strategic, and pretty brutal frontier town. Its story doesn't start with books and scholars. Nope. It starts with blood, mud, and fortifications.
The city's name pretty much tells you everything about its humble beginnings. Oxenaforda, which literally just means a ford or a river crossing for oxen. But its location was just too important, right on the River Thames, on the border between Saxon and Viking territory. So it couldn't stay peaceful. It very quickly went from a simple river crossing to a key military stronghold, first to fight off the Vikings and then later controlled by the Normans.
And you can see just how brutal this era was right here. In the year 1002, a royal decree to kill all Danish settlers led to this horrific event right in the heart of town. People ran to a church for safety, and the locals just locked them in and burned it down. This wasn't a battle, it was a straight-up massacre. And it just goes to show you, long before any scholars showed up, Oxford's character was defined by this kind of raw, violent conflict.
The city was also a huge stage for national power struggles. During this crazy civil war that historians call the Anarchy, Empress Matilda got trapped in Oxford Castle. She was stuck there for 3 months under siege, but then she pulls off one of the most amazing escapes in history. Dressed in white, she and her knights just slipped out in the middle of a snowy night and walked across the frozen river to safety. So you see, Oxford wasn't some sideshow. It was the center of a war for the English crown.
But the violence wasn't just coming from outside threats. See, when scholars started showing up in the 12th century, it didn't really bring peace. Instead, it kicked off a brand new internal conflict that would burn for centuries, the infamous rivalry between the local townspeople and the university students.
So here's the problem. You had two completely different worlds forced to live together. On one side, you had the town, the local workers and merchants, who saw the students as these arrogant, privileged outsiders who drove up prices and got away with everything. And on the other side, you had the gown, the scholars in their academic robes who often looked down on the locals. You can see how this was just a recipe for disaster.
And here's something wild. You know that legendary Oxford-Cambridge rivalry? Well, it was born directly out of this violence. After a scholar killed a local woman, the townspeople grabbed 2 other scholars who had nothing to do with it and hanged them. In protest, a bunch of academics just packed up and left. And where did they go? They went and set up a new university in a quiet little town called Cambridge. A feud for the ages, all started by a street brawl.
But the absolute peak of this town versus gown conflict was the St. Scholastica's Day riot. And get this, it started over the most ridiculous argument you can imagine. 2 students complaining that the wine at a tavern wasn't very good. That tiny spark just lit a fuse, and the entire city exploded. For 3 straight days, it was an all-out street battle. We're talking townspeople armed with bows and swords hunting students through the alleys. It was pure chaos.
And the result was absolutely devastating. An estimated 93 people, students and locals, were killed. Think about that. This wasn't just a big fight. It was basically a small-scale civil war. It just shows you how deep that hatred between town and gown really ran.
So as if the local riots weren't enough, Oxford soon found itself right at the epicenter of England's biggest national crises, the violent religious shakeups of the Reformation and the bloody English Civil War.
During the Reformation, Oxford became a place of public execution. When the Catholic queen, Bloody Mary, took the throne, she decided to make an example of 3 leading Protestant bishops, including the Archbishop of Canterbury himself, Thomas Cranmer. They were burned at the stake for heresy, right in the center of the city for everyone to see.
Fast forward about a century, and the city completely transforms again. During the English Civil War, King Charles I gets kicked out of London and makes Oxford his new capital. All those beautiful colleges, they became army barracks and weapons factories. Students dropped their books and picked up muskets to fight for the king. For 4 years, Oxford was the heart of the Royalist war effort, right up until it finally fell to Parliament.
After all those centuries of war and rebellion, Oxford enters this whole new era of transformation. It basically reinvented itself, becoming this dual city. You had the historic center of learning, the dreaming spires, right alongside a modern industrial powerhouse of smokestacks.
You know, the Industrial Revolution changed everything. First came the canals, then the railway, and suddenly Oxford was connected to the rest of the country like never before. Industry just boomed, and look at the city's population. It exploded. It quadrupled in just 100 years. This was a brand new Oxford, one defined just as much by factories as it was by university fellows.
And this new era brought some incredible innovation. I mean, in a local garage, a guy named William Morris starts what would become a massive car company. Then, during World War II, it was scientists in Oxford who figured out how to mass-produce penicillin, a breakthrough that saved countless lives. And in 1954, an Oxford medical student named Roger Bannister did what everyone thought was impossible. He ran a mile in under 4 minutes.
Now, this is one of my favorite parts. While the city was industrializing, a totally different kind of world building was happening in a quiet little pub. A group of friends who called themselves the Inklings, including J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, would meet up to read their latest writings to each other. So just picture it. Middle-earth and Narnia, two of the greatest fantasy worlds ever imagined, were literally born right there over a pint of beer.
And all this brings us to the Oxford we see today, a city that's full of these profound contradictions. We have this immense global influence existing right next to some really intense local challenges.
I mean, the university's global impact is just undeniable. It's educated a staggering number of world leaders, scientific pioneers, and cultural icons. The name itself is just synonymous with excellence and prestige all over the world.
And this isn't just ancient history either. Just recently, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Oxford was once again at the center of a global crisis, developing one of the world's first and most widely used vaccines. It's just a perfect testament to its ongoing relevance.
But here it is. Here's the central paradox of modern Oxford. It's this ancient medieval city that's also on the cutting edge of AI and biotech. It attracts a diverse, brilliant global population, but at the same time, it struggles with some of the UK's worst wealth inequality and a crazy housing crisis that pushes local people out. In a way, that old tension between town and gown is still there. It's just taken on a new form.
When you look back, the one constant in Oxford's history is relentless adaptation. It has survived massacres, sieges, riots, and revolutions. It has been forced to reinvent itself over and over and over again. Which, of course, leaves us with the big question. For a city that survived 1,000 years of conflict, what on earth comes next?